All the content contained in this webcast is for informational purposes only. The investments and strategies contained in this webcast may not be suitable for you. Please consult your own independent financial advisor before making any investment or trading decisions. Welcome back, traders, for our 10:30 a.m. update. S&P is getting a nice boost, holding settlement early in the session, getting help from IBM, who announced a stock buyback, increasing their dividend, and some stellar AT&T earnings.
Yeah, AT&T has been moving up. IBM, though, let's start with IBM here, Joel. They announced stock buyback and dividend increase right after the open. The stock opened basically right around that low, but then really got a lift when that news came out. It's taken off, moved parabolically up here, up over almost 4 points actually. It's moved since the open. It's trading 202.14 right now, Joel. What a move for IBM.
Yeah, I mean, you've had basically a 14-point break in this stock, just under the 197 level. So would not look for major resistance in IBM until 204.10, 204.15. That was the day that it gapped down from the earnings play. So that would be a real good area, 204, maybe a little bit higher, 204 and a half. Take back half of that move, and then see whether or not this news is enough to drive it back up to all-time highs, or perhaps IBM is anticipating some weakness in its stock price over the next few months and be able to buy the shares on the downslide. I can't see them rushing. I mean, when they announce their buyback, that doesn't mean they immediately send an order to the New York Stock Exchange to buy $7 billion worth of stock.
No, it means they're going to be buying over the course of time here, so that could put upward pressure on the stock as those buy orders slowly trickle in throughout, the course of probably the next couple of months. But overall, it's given the stock a nice lift here. I mean, we moved down very, very quickly after the earnings report here through all this level, so it can move up quickly as well. If it really started to move up, this whole 205 area is what gave it a little bit resistance before, so that could be where it's eventually moving up to, and that might give you a little bit of initial resistance, Joel.
Okay, and another company that got a boost off earnings, AT&T.
Yeah, AT&T is flying here. The stock just taking off. We thought it might stall out at the 31.15 area where it opened at. It actually traded in the pre-market at 31.15 for quite some time. This was where we had talked about these ex-dividend players. Right back here, obviously, the play sometimes is where a lot of participants take home the stock for the ex-dividend date. The stock, I think, closed at 31.57 that day, had a 44-cent dividend, so the break even for those guys were 31.13. It broke down from that point, so if they didn't get out on the open for their break even, they were underwater for quite some time. It opened for the first time, or it traded for the first time in the last month since that event, right at the open at 31.16. I probably put a little bit of why it opened where it did, but the stock price just took off after that. I thought it might stall out there. I actually tried to short that level myself. I lost on it. I think I ended up covering around 31.35, so I ended up losing 20 cents, which you can't be right on them all, so you just got to know when you're wrong, and if it's not working for you, obviously you want to use tight stops. I don't like to even lose 20 cents on a stock like AT&T. I wish I could have covered it a little sooner, but it moved very quickly, Joel. If you were caught short this thing, it really moved up really fast with not much of a pullback.
Yeah, I mean, now it's just a question whether or not it has the momentum to get back up to this $32 area. Big move. I mean, we'll see if it has a continuation move or do something like what Microsoft did. Dennis had the big earnings boost. Just gap and went that day. It got up to within 6 cents of the 52-week high, and pretty much has not sniffed that level since. So we'll see if that 32 area gets tested over the next couple days. Boy, Apple, after taking that nosedive in the pre-market, Dennis, couldn't quite get to yesterday's low. We've gotten a little bit of a pop here. Just that stock at the I'd be surprised to see if it stayed in a 10-point range today, but looks like folks are just squaring
They're
positions.
squaring positions, and it is consolidating here. We've been trading in this 560 to 565 area pretty much the whole morning, at least in the first hour here. So it could start to move, but I wouldn't be surprised if the thing is actually quiet before earnings because you have people squaring positions. Some people are bullish, some people are bearish, and they're just trading the stocks. Obviously, after the earnings report, it could move either in direction. I still think you could get some serious volatility depending on what's said, obviously. A lot of people are going to be watching this earnings report after the bell, Joel.
Yeah, I tell you, I really was, made some decent calls in that thing up around the 620 level, and we've gotten a sell off in here. But now, since everyone is getting so bearish on it down here and selling before earnings,
You're almost
I don't
bullish.
know.
We're always like contrarian.
I know.
I'm
I mean,
naturally a
I guess it's
contrarian. Yeah.
okay, but I mean, if I wasn't, I wouldn't want to go into this report short. I mean, the trend of this thing with the higher earnings surely hasn't shown any kind of decrease. I mean, they came out with the iPad last quarter. Uh, I don't know. I wouldn't want to be shorting it, and I think it's going to get a pop. It's going to get a pop just because people are shorting into it. And I don't know if we'll get back up to the $600 level, but it's really holding in here. 558.78 was the low today, and yesterday's low was a little bit below that. So we'll see. I don't think you'll see a whole lot more movement in AT&T today. I think it just chop its way between the high and the low.
I mean, Joel, this is the whole herd mentality thing that I've talked about. I'm actually got that article coming out in CFA magazine probably the end of this week, talking about and highlighting Apple. And this was all herd mentality. Everybody getting in. Oh, it's going to 1,000. We got to get in. The thing goes from 400, to 644 or whatever the high was. It 644? Yeah, 644 over the course of 2.5 months. It was a ridiculous move. This has had its shakeout. The herd is probably out now. So now it comes back to fundamentals. I mean, we've had a 90-point drop in the course of the last 2 or 3 weeks here. So I can tend to agree with you. And if you're watching CNBC where everybody was bullish, lots of people are bearish this thing now. Not saying that it's necessarily going to go higher or lower, but it's kind of mixed now. I think that whole herd where everybody's long the thing and all of a sudden, they have a report that's not that great and everybody, oh, what happened? I mean, a lot of the herd is thrown in the towel already. So, maybe it doesn't, fall $50 if they, miss earnings. It's really hard to say, Joel.
And and they don't provide much, guys. I mean, there's just a couple levels. This 555.75 level, which we highlighted. Yesterday's low is just above that. You also have the 578 level, Dennis. You got to remember that. That's when all the dividend players, people that needed the stock because of the dividend, that's where they hopped in. And then also, I think the farther that you trade under 600, the more resistance is going to come up at that whole number.
The 600 level's got to be big. You think that number, it's probably almost the 50% retracement of the move too now. Such a big hole number. I got to think that 600 is going to have relevance here. If it goes to go into a pop, I would think 600 may initially put a lid on it, but it's really hard to say, Joel. This is almost like a coin flip here with Apple. If you're trading it before earnings, it's almost like going to the casino and putting it on red or black on the roulette wheel because really anything could happen.
Okay, the rest of the earnings that we talked about, Triple M seemed to run into some resistance there, just under the $90 level.
Yeah, actually 3M. I think we missed that one in the pre-market show. We just ran out of time. But 3M actually opened up around 89 a quarter. It was trading the pre-market right around that $90. It did today, and if you look at these couple of highs, there was some institutional selling pressure at 92. Or at $90 as well. So that 90 seems to be holding. It did get a run up. It opened, and if you look at the daily here, it did run up to 89.75, so about 25 cents down from where the really initial resistance was going to start there. So probably, some short-term traders there looking, well, I'll risk 25 cents to see the downside on that. And they had a pretty good trade off it there too, Joel.
Okay, yeah, it did. Here's a stock that hit 90.20 in the pre-market and then sold off from that level. Couldn't even open up above that 90. So that kind of psychological number held up pretty well. Another one with a little bit of egg on our face. More me than you. There's Hershey's call, man. Hershey's is off to the races.
Hershey's is off to the races. This stock, I thought 65, and it initially did hold the 65 level. I thought that might be where the stock might stall out because there was an institutional seller there. They took him out and they flew through. The whole tractor beam type of play was in play there, where it was actually at 60, just under $65. It took that 65 out. It was trading 65.50 in a heartbeat, Joel. So that thing really bounced. You know, if you were leaning on the 65, you really had no way to cover. It did pull back down, got to 65.12 or something, but very difficult to cover. The stock's been straight up, so probably caught a few people short on this thing, and it's just moving a lot higher.
Right, and I guess the only other number in the book here would be 67.37. That was the high that we hit back in May of 2005.
2005.
Yeah, before it's dipped down to $30. So long-term players are being rewarded here. If you held on to your Hershey stock since 2005, if you bought the top at 67.37, you're only a buck away from getting out. UTX, Dennis, that stock is had a pretty wild ride today.
Yeah, UTX moving around. It was trading higher in the pre-market. We talked about this 81.50 level. It didn't get there. It was trading quite a bit of stock at 81, opened at 80 actually, has rallied only to 80.49, so it hasn't even got close to that resistance level that we had spoke of. If it continued to fly up, I think that 81 would give you some resistance because so much stock traded there in the pre-market, and 81.50 has been resistance for the last 3 or 4 days.
Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised you got to pick that stock up below yesterday's low there, Dennis. Where'd you have the New York Open at?
New York opened at 80, right on the button, 80 bucks.
Okay. Yeah, that 81 level, if this rally continues, should be very good resistance. Okay, Netflix, Dennis, good thing you didn't take my bet on the Netflix. I think I would have won.
We thought it might bounce off the hop. You get the short covering. It opened actually right. We even talked about possibilities that this thing opens at the low. It opened 20 cents from the low. So we didn't get everything wrong today. We got this one right, Joel. But definitely opened right near the low, 86.50. Trade down to 86.30. Has been straight up ever since. Got right to the 90. Found some resistance at that hole number. Peeled back a little bit. Now it's taking the second gasp up at it. If it took out that 90, it starts to open up, Joel.
Yep. I mean, just but except you got everyone that bought it in the pre-market during that major consolidation phase. But remember to write that one down. That was a good one with that consolidation phase. You get all your traders that accumulated in the pre-market. Probably the longer it does not get out of 90, the more nervous they're going to get back holding those positions. And just looking at another stock that we talked about. And I guess it's just how you interpret what we say. We talked about ExxonMobil breaking out over 86. Well, if you were smart and anticipated the breakout, it ended up opening lower at 85.64. Is that where you had the New York Open, Dennis?
85.75 it actually opened at, Joel. Traded down to 85.70. I actually did get short this thing. It popped initially right off the hop. I shorted it once off that 86 level. I got short 85.97. It peeled back and I got 15 cents off. I think I covered around 85.80. But then it was drifting back up. I didn't short it the second time, and lucky I didn't because it did end up taking it out. I mean, it hasn't really flown through it or anything, but it's trading above it right now at 86.14, so it is trading above that resistance level. Resistance holds for so long. You try 2, 3, 4 times at it, eventually it usually does take it out, and it has taken out that ExxonMobil resistance here, Joel.
Yeah, you talked about it in the pre-market, and I said, hey, well, Dennis, this is like the fourth or fifth
Yeah,
time up, so buyer beware. Well, the S&Ps are getting a nice bounce today. Really, except doing it without Apple Computer. Just inching up. I don't see any major resistance up until Monday's Globex high at 1374.75. We're a little bit away from that. The upside target on the day is even higher than that at 1378. But it just seems like folks that have bought things on the cheap over the last few days are just selling it at these higher levels. Well, that's our 10:30 a.m. update for today, and we'll be back with you tomorrow.